When it comes to legendaries in Pokemon Go, we've seen just about all of them throughout generations 1 through 7, but in Generation 5, there are still the 2 fusion forms of Kyurem that we have yet to see. As we predicted in our Go Tour Unova speculation video, we think these 2 Kyurem forms are coming for that event in February, so now we're going to be looking at just how powerful these fusions will be in Go, including what their signature moves could look like. So without further ado, let's get into this frozen analysis. Welcome back everyone. Black and White Kyurem actually released by accident back in December 2023 when they were made available through the GBL, but of course, this was undone shortly after. But it makes sense that these 2 Kyurem forms would debut during the Go Tour Unova in February. So starting off, let's talk about how I think fusing these forms will work. I suspect Kyurem will adopt the fusion framework set by Necrozma back in GoFest 2024. Though unlike Necrozma, we'll have much easier access to the fusion components, seeing that Kyurem, Reshiram, and Zekrom have all been in raids several times. I imagine Go Tour Unova will have Black and White Kyurem as raid bosses, and you'll battle each to get fusion energy for the 2 forms. Although, I think it's possible that they'll introduce an additional means of limiting your access to these forms. Maybe they'll introduce something like a DNA splicer item that drops from raids like Mega Rayquaza's Meteorites, and you would need one to create a Kyurem fusion. This isn't what I would want to happen obviously, but it still seems like a possibility. But now let's move into the 2 Kyurem forms themselves and see how good each will look. Now I will recognize that both Black and White Kyurem have had their movesets present in the game's code for years now. And while we could get them with these movesets intact, it's also possible that we could see a move update prior to release, which could make them even better, or also worse. Now both Kyurem fusions have the same base stats, an incredible 310 attack, a fairly average 183 defense, and a reasonably high 245 stamina. These make for some pretty incredible stats for both raids and PvP. Looking at the real stats of a level 50 fused Kyurem, it's like if you took Mewtwo, who has the highest attack in the Master League, added a little more defense, 9 more attack, and 26 more HP. You end up with a really impressive looking Pokemon. No, it doesn't have the bulk of something like Lugia or Zygarde, but having modest bulk and the highest attack stat is nothing to scoff at. Now for raids, neither Kyurem form has a full Ice moveset, only a full Dragon moveset, but make no mistake, they're still impressive. Black Kyurem specifically lands near the top of all Dragon attackers among Shadow Dragon types. However, in terms of non-Shadow, non-Mega Dragons, it's still second place to Origin Palkia with Spatial Rend. As for White Kyurem, its moveset is in a slightly more unfortunate position, with the worst Dragon Breath and Dragon Pulse, and as a result, it sits around the likes of Haxorus and non-Shadow Dragonite. But let's now look at these fusion signature moves, Freeze Shock for Black Kyurem and Ice Burn for White Kyurem. These are really strong 140 power moves in the main series, and I expect they'll be really powerful in Go too. So for raids, our placement of these moves comes in at the same 140 power as the main series, but the catch is that they're 2-bar moves. This would actually match Dragon Ascent, both 140 power 50 energy moves, although I would dial these fusion moves back slightly, being a little slower in duration at 4 seconds, but make no mistake, these would be incredibly strong. Utilizing their Dragon Fast move and either of these signature moves, the Kyurem fusions would function as anti-dragon attackers, good against dragon types who are specifically weak to both Dragon and Ice, like Giratina, Zekrom, and Latios. And even as an Ice attacker, against things like Landorus and Rayquaza, these 2 would still be extremely strong counters. Obviously though, the 2 would look much better if they could utilize these moves with an Ice Fast move. As of Generation 9, Ice Fang is an eligible move for Kyurem. Giving the 2 fusions Ice Fang would make them even more powerful. But whether or not they go with our placement for these moves remains to be seen. But regardless, these 2 have huge potential for raids, with and even without their signature moves. But what about PvP? Well, believe it or not, these 2 aren't as impressive as you'd think. Mainly because while they have good fast moves, their charged move selection is a bit iffier, mostly including powerful but expensive nuke moves. They really need something cheaper that's still strong, so let's do just that. Translating the fusion moves to PvP, I'm placing the moves at 90 power for 50 energy with a 30% chance to decrease the opponent's attack. This essentially makes the moves a stronger Ice-type version of Scald. I wanted to preserve the 30% chance to paralyze or burn from the main series, while also making the moves high in power. At the same time though, I didn't want to make the move too cheap. For powerful Pokemon like these, they really don't need moves that you can spam too often, so I think 50 energy would be a happy medium. Now this would favor Black Kyurem, seeing that it has the higher energy generation with Shadow Claw, but White Kyurem would still have stronger fast move pressure running Dragon Breath. That said, like I mentioned earlier, their movesets could be subject to change, so maybe either could get a cheaper charged move like Breaking Swipe or Icicle Spear, or maybe a brand new fast move with better energy generation like Freeze Dry or Scale Shot. We've still got a few months as of this video until the expected Unova tour, so there's time for changes. Now one more thing I want to talk about is adventure effects. So far, we've seen adventure effects for Roar of Time and Spatial Rend, plus Sunsteel Strike and Moongeist Beam, and I think Freeze Shock and Ice Burn may also have special effects. Specifically, I imagine the two moves will work as a special incense that attracts certain Pokemon, similar to Necrozma's moves. Both moves would spawn Ice-type Pokemon like Cubchoo and Cryogonal, and then Freeze Shock would also spawn certain electric types, while Ice Burn would spawn fire types. Neither of these adventure effects would be anything major, but it would still make for a nice addition to each attack. But what do you think about our speculative placements for these moves? Would you like to see them any different? I will note, some have proposed for these fusion moves to become fast moves for Black and White Kyurem, so they can run those alongside Glaciate. But the moves really feel too powerful and important to be relegated to fast moves. Who knows though? If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming videos, including the eventual analysis on Kyurem's fusion forms and whatever moves they get at release, so stay tuned. Until next time though, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.